Good afternoon and welcome back everyone to our options education webinar series. My name is Tony Zhang. I'm the chief strategist here at OptionsPlay, and ChatGPT dropped a new update less than 2 weeks ago that really is a pretty significant game changer for generative AI. And what we're going to do here today is walk you through some of the early explorations that we have gone through using this new update of ChatGPT and how it can be used to significantly improve your process and become a better trader as a result. We talk a lot about being disciplined as a trader, and sometimes we just need a little bit of help being accountable to it. And this new update for ChatGPT facilitates that and makes it a lot easier for us to potentially do that. So let's jump right in and go through some of that. Now, we here at OptionsPlay are dedicated to your education for becoming a confident, sustainable trader in the long run. Every single Thursday, we do these options education sessions to help you become a better trader and help you round out your education, not just focusing on options itself, but looking at technical analysis, looking at fundamental analysis, looking at risk management, portfolio management, also tools that could help you improve all around, such as ChatGPT. We've done a series on how ChatGPT or generative AI can help you with your investing last summer. So really excited to be back here with this latest update. This will likely be one of many in this series because this just dropped less than 2 weeks ago. The Mac OS app was just available a few days ago. So we're not even including that right now in this presentation. So a lot more to come. So please stay tuned. But overall, I see so many of you have already jumped into the chat windows to say hello. If you're joining us for the first time here at OptionsPlay, bring up your chat window. Let us know where you're joining from. I see visitors from just about everywhere around the world: Bahamas, Canada, Australia, California. I see Denmark. So many of you joining from all different parts of the world. Some of you joining at night, some of you joining very early morning. Thank you so much for being a part of the OptionsPlay community. As you can see, it's a vibrant community, and I hope many of you are able to get quite a bit out of today's session. Now, before we get started, what we are going to discuss here today is purely for education and demonstration purposes. It is not a solicitation or recommendation to buy or sell any of the specific securities that we might use as example purposes during today's session. So what I'll do is I'll start off by talking a little bit about how to use the latest version of ChatGPT-4o to improve your trading. We're going to talk about how to use ChatGPT and what the latest version includes if you are brand new to ChatGPT. And then specifically, we're going to look at use cases and specific prompts that we have built to help you immediately improve your trading. Specifically, we want to talk about discipline. We want to talk about research and how it can be used as a tool to help you all around. Now, many of you are likely going to ask whether this session is recorded. Not only are these sessions going to be recorded, but you can access the prompts that we have spent the last couple of weeks engineering directly if you have an OptionsPlay account. So if you're a member, if you're currently on a free trial, you'll get an email from us this weekend when we upload the video with direct links to the prompts that I'm going to show you here today, so you can replicate what you're going to learn here using ChatGPT immediately after today's session once the recording gets processed. If you're brand new to OptionsPlay and you don't have an account yet, you can sign up for your free 30-day trial using the QR code on your screen or the link that Philip has just sent off into the chat window, optionsplay.com/sign up. It takes 10 seconds to sign up. It doesn't require a credit card. So if you want access to the prompts that we're going to show you during today's session, please take the 10 seconds, sign up for the free trial, and that will give you access to all of that when we send it out this weekend with the recording, so that you can watch the recording at your own pace, pull up ChatGPT side by side, and start testing some of the things that we're going to show you during today's session. So let's take a look at the ChatGPT-4o update. So this is really where, when we think about the ChatGPT-4o update, The most important part is the fact that 4o stands for omni-channel. So it now is able to incorporate image, video, documents all into the input and output um, of ChatGPT, and it's done so in a single model, meaning it's not just taking your audio, translating it into text, and then putting the text into ChatGPT, and then taking the output and then recreating it in audio. It's actually a single model that actually incorporates all input of different mediums and all outputs in a single model. It's a really, really powerful update. This was not something that we were actually expecting, but this is a really, really surprising update that is going to, in my opinion, completely revolutionize the accessibility and usability of generative AI models. So it's now going to interpret and respond in both text and images. It has a much better understanding and comprehension of much more accurate responses. We'll talk a little bit about kind of our experience with that. Enhanced personalization, more personalized interactions based on user preferences, expanded knowledge, up-to-date information across a wider range of topics. That certainly is true. When we look at replicating some of the research stuff, there certainly have been huge improvements on that front. It's still not, in my opinion, exactly where I want it to be, and I'll talk to you and I'll show you kind of where that is, but it certainly is much more faster and efficient, especially if you're on a free version of ChatGPT. You can still access the new update of ChatGPT-4o, and is much, much faster than the old 3.5, 3.5 model that you might have had access to before, because only 4.0 was available for paid users. So let's jump right into it. From my perspective, there's really a few key categories that I think ChatGPT 4o will allow you to help you become a better trader. First of all, and probably more importantly, is the process of discipline. When we think about trading, and a lot of traders, have specific strategies or rules around their strategies, but most of the time, a lot of times traders will fail to follow those rules to a T. And that's because there are a lot of rules, there's a lot of flexibility. We include our individual biases into each trade. How can we remain unbiased? How can we remain objective with our rules and have something like a ChatGPT or generative AI help us stick to our overall rules? And that's really where I think that we're going to be able to provide a lot of assistance on that front using tools like ChatGPT. So first of all, one of the cool new features is the fact that it's able to interpret images now, which means that you can actually have ChatGPT do technical analysis for you. This is an incredibly powerful part of the new update. And what that means is that you can essentially tell ChatGPT what your process is for identifying a chart or analyzing a chart. And instead of you having to do the work yourself, which as humans, we always add a bit of subjectivity. We always add our individual biases. What this does is it provides a clear and objective view to each individual chart based on the rules that you have set out for yourself as to how you want ChatGPT to analyze your charts. So this is really an important part, because I see a lot of traders, what they'll do is they'll say, I like to use the 50-day moving average. And then when they have an idea and the 50-day moving average doesn't agree with what their views are, they'll say, oh, let me look at the 200-day moving average. And they just find new indicators until an indicator confirms their original bias. And what that basically means is that you're not following technical analysis. You're not following a rules-based strategy. You're just using technical analysis as an excuse to confirm your own biases. So this is one way to kind of avoid that and have a much more objective view to each individual chart that you're reviewing. So if you're looking at an investment idea, someone threw an idea out to you, you read idea on a platform somewhere else, and you just want a way to make sure that you have a clear view of the underlying security from a technical analysis perspective, ChatGPT will now be able to do that for you. And I'm going to show you an exact prompt that you can use and how you can use the new update to do exactly that. Something that we wouldn't have been able to do in the old versions of ChatGPT. The second thing you're going to be able to do is ensure a check trade list. Checklist. And this is for both trade entry and trade management. So we generally have rules that we want to stick to with regards to trade entry. Those are risk parameters that we want to make sure that we stay within. We have different data points that we typically will look at that factor into what strategies we want to trade. We might have requirements on liquidity that we want to stick to. We might want to have trend and relative strength rules that we want to stick to generally when we're looking for a bullish and bearish opportunity, so that we don't take trades that are kind of outside of our realm that we're comfortable with. So you can actually code all these rules, or actually tell ChatGPT these rules, and every single time you place a trade, effectively have ChatGPT be your review process and make sure out of your checklist which one of those things check off. And make sure that you have at least, if not all of them, the vast majority of your rules checked off before you execute a trade, and know which one of your rules, if you are violating them, that you are violating. This is a great way to audit a trade after you place a trade, to say if a trade works out or it doesn't work out, you can go back to that audit and say, did I follow my rules? And if I didn't follow my rules, which ones did I break? And it gives you this process that can help you start becoming a better trader by improving your overall process and keeping you accountable to your overall process. So we're going to show you both on trade entry and trade management specific prompts that you can use to analyze your trades that you want to make, and analyze your existing portfolio and see if there are any positions that you need to close, take profits, cut losses, or on a trade entry, whether or not you've satisfied your own rules or not, or if you're breaking your rules. And then lastly, this is the last part that I want to show you, is having ChatGPT as your research assistant. And this part is the part where, in my opinion, currently it falls a little bit short. There are some interesting use cases to be used. It certainly is a huge improvement from the previous version of ChatGPT-4 4.0. So despite the fact that it's not quite where I want it to be just yet, they have made significant strides, and I want to show you kind of what some of those strides are, and what you can do with it, what are some of the limitations, and what we are looking forward to in the new updates going forward, is that can potentially improve this even further and actually become a fully automated research assistant, if you will, to your investment thesis. So with that, let's jump right into this. The first one I'm going to start with is chart analysis. And again, this goes back to the fact that as technical analysts, I see a lot of traders, they don't stick to the rules that they place for themselves, right? You might have indicators that you like to use with regards to trading, but what we do as human beings is that if the indicators that we use doesn't quite confirm the views that we might have on an individual stock, so someone gives you a stock idea, or maybe you come up with your own idea and you think that you're bullish on the stock, but you look at your own indicators and your own strategy, and those indicators maybe are not as bullish. What do? Sometimes we, as human beings, what we'll do is we'll say, let me look at a different indicator, see if that tells me something else. And what we do is we just end up finding other indicators until it confirms our view, and say, oh, okay, great, let me go ahead and trade it because this other indicator confirmed my view. But we're not sticking to our rules when we do that. And if you're guilty of that, please type 1 into the chat window. I know I'm guilty of it. I know many of you are guilty of that. So this is one way that you can potentially use ChatGPT to avoid that and be a lot more objective about your rules and a lot more objective of your trading. So this specific prompt that I have here, what I'm going to show you, I'm going to put it into ChatGPT. I'm going to copy and paste this into ChatGPT. I'm going to show you how this works. Okay, so this prompt I'm going to post into ChatGPT, and it's really important that when you use ChatGPT, there are multiple models. There's ChatGPT-4o, which is the newest model. That's what we're going to discuss during today's session. There's ChatGPT-4, which was the previous most advanced model, and this ChatGPT 3.5. 3.5 previously was the only one you had access to for free if you didn't have a paid account. ChatGPT-4 was the one that you got access to if you were paid. It was a little faster. It did more complex text. It certainly wrote text a little bit better. But ChatGPT-4o is available for free for everyone. There are limitations in terms of the number of messages that you can send if you are using the free version. If you're using the paid version, there's no limit as to how much you can use ChatGPT-4o for. But even if you're on a a free account for ChatGPT, you can at least start using this and testing it out and see if it's worth the $20 a month for the paid version, which I certainly find far more valuable than the $20 a month that this service costs. So let's look at my prompt for trading. And this prompt is basically engineered as a way to help me stick to my rules. And I just put together a fairly simple set of rules for analyzing each chart. I'm using two indicators. I'm using a 26-period moving exponential moving average, and then I'm using a 20-period CCI. Many of you know that those are indicators that I use quite often. If you watch some of my sessions earlier this month, you'll see kind of why I use these specific indicators. And it doesn't matter which indicators you use. What you just have to do is write down the process by which you are using these indicators. And just the process of writing it down is a really important process for improving as a trader, because if you're not able to articulate what your strategy is by writing it down, then I would argue that you don't really have a strategy until you can write it down in plain English, what your analysis or what your strategy is. Then you don't really have a strategy. So here I wrote a simple one, basically saying I use a 26-period moving average and a 20-period CCI. And if the stock is above the moving average and the CCI is positive, I consider this stock in a bullish trend. Vice versa, if it's below the 26-period moving average and the CCI is negative, I consider that as a bearish trend. And if the CCI is negative, but the stock is above its moving average, that's a sell signal, and vice versa. If the CCI is bullish and it's below the moving average, that's a buy signal. So it doesn't really matter what the strategy is, right? That's just a sample strategy that I'm giving you. But the idea is that you want to write your own or take this prompt, but customize it to your own strategy. Whatever indicators you'd like to use, whether you use a 50-day moving average or a 21-period moving average or a 200-day moving average, whatever indicators you use, whatever RSI, MACD, stochastics you use, you can customize it to how you want to interpret the chart. What you want to define is what constitutes as bullish, what constitutes as bearish, maybe even what constitutes as neutral, and what constitutes as a buy or sell signal, right? Those are the things that you want to articulate to ChatGPT. And once you're able to do that, you just have to do it once. Once you do that, what you do is you simply upload a chart with each of the time you prompt this. So here I'm going to upload one chart. It doesn't really matter what the chart is, but I've just uploaded a chart from OptionsPlay. I've defined what my strategy is, and I can simply send this off for ChatGPT. And what it will do is it basically analyzes the chart for me, and it'll tell me what the moving average is telling me, what the CCI is telling me, and when you combine the two, what my views are. So in this particular case, as you can see, it looks at the moving average, and it says that the current price is below the moving average, indicating a bearish trend. The CCI is below zero, which suggests a bearish sentiment. So conclusion is based on your trading rules, the current view of this chart should be bearish, as both the stock is below the 20-period moving average and the CCI is below zero. There are no signals for new buy or sell signals under the criteria at this time. So what this means is that the chart is clearly bearish, but I don't have any buy signals. So maybe that might mean that, okay, this is a bearish view on a specific strategy, but I'm not able to generate a specific buy or sell signal at the very moment. And once you've prompted ChatGPT with your specific strategy, you can save this specific chat, and next time you can basically upload a new chart. So what I've done is basically I went to OptionsPlay. Let's say I pull up, I don't know, let's look at Goldman Sachs, for example, right? It doesn't matter what chart you use, as long as you have the specific indicators that you use as part of your process. So I have the 26-period EMA and I have the 20-period CCI here. All I have to do is basically take a screenshot of the chart, as I've done here. I go to ChatGPT. I will upload that new screenshot that I just took. And I'll say, help me analyze this new chart. So I don't have to, once you make the prompt once you articulate to ChatGPT what your strategy is once, that's it. You just have to upload new charts from there going forward. And what this will do is basically take any new charts and reinterpret it for you. So as you can see, this is telling me that based on your trading rules, the current view is that a new sell signal is present. Because the stock is above the 26 period moving average, but the CCI is below zero, right? So these are the rules that I had set for myself, and it's telling me that it's generated a new fresh sell signal. So if I came into this saying that, hey, I think this is a bearish trade, I can simply use this to keep me honest on my strategy, make sure that it's actually giving me the signals according to my own rules and validating my bias that I currently have on this individual trade. So it takes a little bit of effort to start off with by articulating what your overall strategy is. And you might have to do a couple of prompts to make sure you fully get it correct. You basically enter it. And as you can see, it gives you a full audit of each indicator and what each indicator is telling you. And this allows you to see if your prompts that you've put in as far as what you set for your own rules if it's interpreting it the right way, because it's not just saying, oh, it's bullish or it's bearish. It's breaking it down indicator by indicator for you, telling you based on each indicator what its interpretation is. And then you can actually have a combination of saying, if these indicators do this, give me a bullish signal. If these indicators do that, give me a bearish signal, vice versa. The world is your oyster as far as how far you can take this. I've obviously given you a very simple setup and a very simple example, but the idea is that you want to take a few minutes, try to articulate what your technical strategy is or how you use technical analysis to interpret your charts. Do it once, and now going forward, every single time you want to analyze a chart, you just go to your platform, take a screenshot of the chart, make sure you have the indicators that are part of your strategy on that chart, because obviously ChatGPT is not able to use this data and figure out what the indicators are going to look like. You have to include the indicators, but once you do that, it's able to give you that conclusion, right? And once you're comfortable with the conclusions, you can say, you don't have to bother breaking down everything for me. Just give me the conclusions. So, let's just say, for example, now that I'm comfortable with it, I know that it has my rules correct. Let's look at, I don't know, Home Depot, for example, right? You can, think of this as your assistant. Talk to it like it's a real human being and what it's going to be able to provide you. Imagine if you just had a research assistant whose job is to, follow the rules that you've told them to do, and it does it exactly for you to the T, and it never really makes a mistake. So here is another chart. Just give me the conclusion. Don't bother with all of the individual indicators, for example. So going forward, what I can do is it can just give me kind of the snapshot. I don't need to see all the individual indicators once I've done my audit and I know that it's gotten my rules correct. And going forward, now I can use this same chat. I'll save this chat. I don't, every single time I have a new chart, it basically will be able to say, okay, based on the previous chart, it's a bearish sentiment according to your criteria. So it's telling me Home Depot is bearish. It doesn't have a fresh sell signal or buy signal right now. And that's my work done, right? So it really is, it really automates kind of the process for making sure that you stick to your overall rules and remain disciplined to your rules, because this is really where I see most technical analysts struggle, right? And a lot of traders, you constantly want to find new strategies, find new indicators. It's a never-ending cycle, and what you just end up never doing is sticking to a single strategy. And arguably, that's really where a lot of technical traders fail, is because they never stick to a single strategy. They constantly are trading using different indicators, testing different parameters, and it's a never-ending process that you just never find consistency in your trading because you're not consistent in the indicators that you use. This is a process by which you can become far more consistent in not only which indicators you use, but how you interpret those indicators. So there's no objectivity, there's no biases that you're adding to it. It's a very objective view to each individual chart. Does that make sense to everyone? Please type 2 into the chat window if that makes sense to you. Perfect. Okay, so technical analysis, this is a huge leap forward in terms of its ability to basically look at an individual chart and give you that analysis. If you have a Mac, they now have a Mac OS app. And what you're able to do is actually do this live. You can basically have an app that's always running in the background. So as you are looking at a screen, you can effectively, in real time, take a screenshot of the tool as you have the ChatGPT window up. You can even just speak to it and say, analyze this chart for me, take a screenshot. The tool allows you to take a screenshot and it's able to pull in that image into ChatGPT and spit out the result for you in either text or audio format. So it's a huge leap forward. I'm not even showing you that just yet because like I said, that tool just came out a couple of days ago. We're still kind of testing it out and playing with it, but huge improvements, especially for those of you that are using a Mac OS. Okay, so technical analysis, being able to be your eyes for you for technical analysis, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest changes to the latest version that I think is going to be incredibly helpful for a lot of traders. It takes a little bit of effort to put in your strategy and articulate it, but it is worth the few minutes that it takes to do that. Second thing I want to do is looking at trading rules. So what you want to do is you want to think about what rules should you have in place for all of your trade entries, for trade entries and for trade exits. So let's talk about trade entries first, right? So here's a prompt that I've built, and you can use this as a starting point or as a template. So let's go to ChatGPT. We'll create a new chat here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to prompt it. I'm going to say, I have a set of trading rules that I want you to analyze the following trade with. Help me understand if this is a trade that I should make or not. And I have a list of rules, right? So I say, I never want to risk more than $1,000 per trade. Whoops, what just happened there? I never want to risk more than $1,000 per trade. You obviously want to customize that for your own portfolio size and the percentage of your portfolio that you're willing to risk. I only want to trade with the 6-month trend, never against it. So maybe you like to trend follow, right? Maybe you don't like to trade counter trend. So you want to make sure that whatever direction you're trading aligns with the long-term trend of the stock. I want to purchase options if the IV rank is below 30. I want to be selling options if the IV rank is above 30. You don't have to follow these rules. These are just examples of types of rules that people generally have when they're trading options. You can choose to include them, not include them, change the parameters to your own liking. I want to only trade when the OptionsPlay score is greater than 80. This gives you a risk to reward kind of threshold to make sure that the risk reward of a strategy looks good before you place the trade. I only want to trade when the liquidity is either very liquid or somewhat liquid, and I want to avoid stocks that are not liquid. I generally want to take bullish positions when the relative strength is greater than 5 and bearish positions when it's below 5. And I want to avoid entering a position if the stock is up or down more than 5% on that given day. So basically, if the stock is gapped up 10%, I don't want to enter a trade on that day. I want to only trade stocks that have reasonably open within where it closed yesterday. So then what I'm able to do is I'm able to take a trade. So let's say I'm looking at OptionsPlay. Let's go back to Apple real quick. Let's say I'm thinking about a bullish trade here on Apple and I'm thinking about buying, let's say, the debit spread here in Apple, right? So what I'm able to do is I can take a screenshot in OptionsPlay. I can take a screenshot of this part of the screen. I'll highlight this for you just to make sure everyone can see it, right? Whoops. This part of the screen. So what I'm able to do is basically capture the trade details on that screen because it includes all of the metrics that I need to make a trading decision. I just took a screenshot there, and what I'm able to do is I'm able to upload that alongside with these set of rules. And it's just going to tell me whether I should place this trade or not. And it'll go through all of my rules one by one, tell me which one of the rules it satisfies, which one it doesn't. So here, risk management. So risk management, this is within my trade limit, so I'm good there. Trade alignment. As you can see, if you look at my conclusion, risk management met because the trade was, I think, $570 worth of risk. That's within my $1,000 limit. I must trade with the 6-month trend, and the 6-month trend is bullish. I'm making a bullish trade. It's able to interpret that for me as well. The IV rank is currently 26, which is below 30, and I'm using a debit spread, which aligns with the way that I'm using IV rank. The OptionsPlay score is 103, which is better than the 80 that I need. Liquidity is very liquid. That meets my liquidity requirements. Relative strength is 5. which is exactly the threshold that I need for a bullish trade. And then the stock is up 0.53%, so well within the 5% range that I'm looking for. So as you can see, it tells me, okay, it's met all of my trading criteria, all 7 of my trading criteria. This means that and I don't even have to go through and remember all my rules. It just does the work for me and says, okay, I've met all my rules. Let me go ahead and place this trade. Vice versa, let me look. I have another trade, I think, set up here. Here's another one. What about this trade? So going forward, once you put in your rules one time, that's all it takes a few minutes to think about what your rules are for yourself. Do it once, articulate it. Once you're able to articulate it, you will actually be a much better trader because now you know, put it in writing what your rules are. And then OptionsPlay score will tell me, okay, it does not meet my risk management. That's a pretty big one for me, but it meets all the other ones. So, this is one that I have to think about. Here I'm risking $1,117, but my maximum is $1,000. Maybe that's within a comfort level. You're saying it's only $100 more than my $1,000 limit. I'll accept that risk tolerance. So let me go ahead and place that trade. But maybe on other trades, it's a $5,000 risk limit. And I'll say, hey, I'm staying way outside of my range. This is not something I want to do. And you can even be more clever, right? You can say, certain ones, there's a little bit of wiggle room on. So maybe the OptionsPlay score, if it doesn't meet that, you can have a little bit of wiggle room. And you can say there are other rules that are hard and fast. No matter what happens, if it doesn't meet a specific criteria, don't trade this, right? So you can actually tell ChatGPT all of this information. It obviously takes a bit of time to build these rules correctly, but once you build it correctly, you now have an assistant that will review every single trade that you make and tell you whether or not you're following your rules. So if you come back to this trade, let's say you do go ahead and place that American Express trade, and you come back to it 4 weeks later, and the trade didn't work out, and you've lost more money than you expected to, you can actually go back and audit this and say, did I follow all of my rules, right? And you can see, oh, I didn't follow my risk tolerance rules. Let me make sure I don't exceed that. I don't ignore that rule ever going forward, right? And if let's say this trade does work out and you follow it doesn't work out, but you followed all your rules, then you can say, okay, you know what? I followed all my rules. I did everything correctly. It just didn't work out. That's okay. Let me move on. I'm going to move on to the next trade, but I did everything correctly. This is how you improve and become a better trader because, if you think about professional traders, how are they different from, most retail traders? They have rules that they have to stick by. And if they don't stick by those rules, they get fired. So this is a way to help you stick to those same rules that professional traders have to stick by and help you stay in the game and help you become a profitable trader. Does that make sense, everyone? Please type 3 into the chat window if that makes sense to you. And I put 7 rules in here that I think are, very similar to what a lot of you might be using for your trading. You might have different variations, you might have different thresholds, but consider using some of these rules, if not all of them, in your own trading. Incredibly powerful. And the great thing about OptionsPlay is that all of the information that you need is on your screen. You don't have to pull the information. If you're pulling this on your own platform, you might find that liquidity and IV rank are in different places and you have to take different screenshots. You might have risk and reward metrics in different places. On OptionsPlay, you have everything on one screen. So all I have to do is take a screenshot of this part of the trade of the screen, and I now have all the information that I need to make a decision and understand whether I follow my rules or not. Okay. Now, trade entry, very important. More, arguably, what's more important than that is portfolio management and figuring out when to stay in a trade or when to get out of a trade. This is something that I see a lot of traders struggle with. So what we've done is we basically also created a new set of rules for managing your positions. So I've basically created a prompt here as well. This is a simple prompt that has kind of long calls, long puts, debit spreads, and credit spreads, which account for a vast majority of the trades that we make here. But you might add more rules for different strategies. So for example, if you're selling covered calls, you might add a rule for covered calls to determine when it's time to take profits, when it's time to roll your covered call, things like that, so that you get a warning as you process your portfolio. And this allows you to basically automate your decision-making process every single morning. You can pull up ChatGPT, throw in your portfolio and say, do I have to do anything this morning? You don't have to look at your positions and remember all your rules. It can do the work for you. So here's let's start a new chat window here for ChatGPT. Here's the prompt that I built here. Here are my rules for managing positions. Number one, if it's a long call spread or a long call or a long put, so any type of debit spread trade, if cut losses if the unrealized P&L percentage is less than 50%, meaning I lost more than 50% of the debit that I paid, and take profits if the unrealized P&L is above 75. You can obviously customize these numbers to your own thresholds. And if it's a short credit vertical spread, so such as the credit spread, cut losses if I've lost more than 100% of the premium that I've collected, or if I've made more than 50% of the total max gain. And I even have a rule here that says if it reached 21 days to expiration and has not triggered a stop loss or take profit, suggests that we roll the credit spread. So now what I'm saying, can you tell me if there are any positions that I need to manage today? So what I can do is I can basically upload my portfolio from OptionsPlay. And again, OptionsPlay presents everything to you that you need in this on your screen. So you can basically directly just take a screenshot of what you're seeing here on your screen and upload it into ChatGPT. So I'll upload a screenshot that I took here before. Here are my rules for managing my positions. I upload it, and it basically looks through each individual position, looks at all the rules for each type of position, and tells me if any of the positions require action. So it looks at all of these different positions. And it tells me at the moment, action, none needed today, 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 none needed today. So it tells me that, okay, out of all of my positions, none of them require a change. Now, actually, if I look at this right now, it still hasn't exceeded those rules. So I was saying that maybe intraday Adobe was down and it might have exceeded those thresholds, but it hasn't. Let me see if I can find a position where perhaps it has. Maybe violated some of these rules so that we can find a position where it actually needs to start taking profits or cut losses. Let's see if I can find one. I actually don't have any great ones here. But the goal here is so that you can be a rules-based trader and stick to your overall rules, because this is really where I see a lot of traders, especially on the trade management side, be very flexible about their rules. Because guess what, when you have a target profit, especially on target prices, right? You have a trade that's up 30%, 40%, it hasn't met your threshold yet. What do? We take profits early because we're concerned. What if we don't take profits now and the stock reverses and we have a 40% gain turn into a 40% loss? Those 40% losses tend to hurt a lot more than if a trade just goes south and you lose 40% on the trade, right? When a trade is, when you're making money on a trade and then it turns south, for some reason, those trades hurt a lot more, even if the end result is the same. And I tend to find that a lot of traders will take profits too early so that their wins are smaller than they expect it to be, at least based on their overall trading plan. And then when losses happen, when a trade is down 50%, what do you say to yourself? Let me give it one more day. Maybe earnings are coming up next week. Let me see if that turns things around. It's near a support level. I think it's really going to bounce back and get back to my level, even though it's kind of just at my stop loss level. Let me hang on to it for a couple of days, see if it maybe pans out, so I don't have to lock in a loss here today. And people who lock in losses, a lot of times you've been scarred because maybe you cut profits based on your rules, and next thing you know, the stock went back in your favor, right? And you're thinking to yourself, what if that happens again to me? So we as human beings don't really think about, rather as human beings, what we do is we don't stick to our rules very well. And as human nature, we tend to try to avoid pain as much as possible. And cutting losses means that we have to accept pain, and taking profits means that we don't want to face the potential pain of having a win turn back into a loss. But this is really kind of what you need to be doing in order to be a more profitable trader, is sticking to your actual rules. And this is really where being objective, where you don't necessarily are spending that much time looking at each individual position and figuring out, because every time you look at each position, you go through an emotional process, right? If a position is winning, you go through this euphoria of saying, oh, like, yes, I certainly want this to be a larger gain, but what if I just take it now and I can at least, accept some positive energy from having this winning trade, and vice versa. And every single losing trade, you kind of have this nervous energy about it. Should I hang on to it? What should I do? This is not working out. So it's an emotional process to go through every single position of your portfolio every single day to determine what to do. So this kind of helps you take that emotion out of the process so that you can have someone else do the work for you, give you the end results, and then you can take those results and then analyze it and decide, okay, maybe this position is worth looking into a little further. Other positions I don't need to spend as much time on. It really helps with kind of dealing with the emotional side of trading. And I can't stress enough how difficult it is to deal with the emotions of trading, especially when you have a winning position or a losing position. So regardless what you do here, OptionsPlay, using using the prompts that I've shown you here, you can take those prompts directly, customize it to your own rules, and immediately upload, either a portfolio data or a trade data to ChatGPT and have it be your assistant, your trading assistant that helps you stick to your overall rules. Think of it as like a firm that you work for, and this person's role is to help you make sure that you stick to those rules. And if you don't stick to those rules, you're going to get fired as an employee. That's really how you should think about your portfolio, because if you don't follow these rules, you think about a professional trader, if they break a single rule that the firm has set for them as far as the traders, I guarantee you they're either being disciplined or they're being fired for their role. There's no give on not following your rules. And you as a retail trader, a lot of times what we do as retail traders, we are very flexible on those rules. And that's why we're far less consistent as traders. So this is hopefully a way to help you become a far more consistent trader by actually sticking to the rules that you articulate for yourself. Does that make sense, everyone? Please type 4 into the chat window if that makes sense to you. Perfect. Okay, and the last part that I want to talk about is kind of research. And this is really where there's a lot of different ways that you can think about using ChatGPT as your research assistant. There's a few different ways you can have ChatGPT pull fundamental data and provide trend and ratio analysis. This is the part where ChatGPT-4o has made huge improvements in terms of its ability to pull financial data and help you do some of the basic analysis, trend analysis of revenue and EPS. As you can see, here's a chart that I had ChatGPT built for me in terms of Marvell Technologies and what the overall trend for revenue and EPS were over the past 8 quarters. It's a good starting point here. The fact that it's able to draw a chart for me, draw a trend line just based on the input that I said. I'll show you the chat that I went through to kind of get that. Is a huge improvement. The previous ChatGPT version wasn't able to do any of this. It certainly wasn't able to pull data. It certainly wasn't able to analyze the data, and certainly wasn't able to visualize that data for me. So for those of you that are thinking, I need a way to help me validate things from a fundamental perspective, but I don't have the expertise, I don't have the time to pull the data, I don't really have the data sources do it. This is a huge leap forward. There's some nuances there, and I'll walk you through what those nuances are, but I'm really hoping to see this part of ChatGPT improve even further as they do new updates. But this is a huge leap forward in terms of everyone being able to access what is like institutional quality fundamental research just by asking ChatGPT some questions. The other thing you can do is have it summarize research reports that you might get from your brokerage firm. If you have an account at Merrill, you have access to all of Bank of America's institutional research, considered one of the best institutional research on the street. It's one that I read quite a bit. Jessica reads that quite a bit as well. And some of these reports are massive, but they contain a fantastic amount of information. So, the thematic investing primer that they recently just published on AI was 184 pages. It's really difficult to read a 184-page research paper. But what it does is you can upload the paper and have it summarize it for you. And you can ask it questions. What does it think about this specific thing? What does it think about that? What companies is it like in this particular space? I'll show you some of the chat that I have with that. And then another interesting way that you can do it is you can actually upload the Fed minutes to ChatGPT. Every single month as the Fed minutes are released, you can actually upload into ChatGPT and have it interpret the language and say, are there significant changes to Chairman Powell's language on expectations for rate cuts or rate hikes or all of that? These are all different ways that you can use ChatGPT to basically help you summarize financial information and give you the information that you really need. This is really where the world is your oyster. There are so many different ways that you can use this. So I'm just scratching the surface here with regards to what I'm showing you. So here is here is an example, right? I had pulled some of the research in terms of oil prices that Bank of America publishes. So there was a 50-page report that they put out on energy prices. And what I did is I didn't want to read 50 pages. I uploaded that report and said, can you provide me the summary of what their outlook is for oil prices in the future? And it gives me that projection based on Brent and WTI projections in terms of what expectations are, what market balances they expect, between supply and demand, refined products, what those look like, and what factors are influencing prices. So, this is the stuff that I used to have to spend hours and hours reading these research reports in order to get the information that I need. Now, ChatGPT is able to basically summarize what I need in just a few seconds. And then if I need to dive any further, I can just ask more questions. This was the other one that actually, it was this one that I wanted to show you. This was the 184-page paper that they had on AI as an investable theme. And I basically said, can you help me summarize this following document? And it basically summarized for me all of the primary investable themes within AI in healthcare, infrastructure, sovereign play, materials and energy. And then I can basically ask it detailed questions. I can say, what specific companies have they identified as investable with high exposure to these AI themes? And it's able to pull out, the specific companies that are mentioned in this particular paper. And you can just talk to it like this is someone who's dedicated to you think of it as like a research analyst that's at your disposal, and you can throw anything at it, ask them questions, and it's able to respond to you. And it does it quite accurately, surprisingly accurately. So there's a lot of information that you can do here with this. Another one that I wanted to show you is this kind of trend analysis. So I really played around with this, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure this out. So some of the things that what we were doing was I prompted this to basically say, I want to run revenue and EPS trend analysis, pull the last 12 quarters of data directly from the SEC database, and convert those quarterly numbers into trailing 12-month numbers, and then help me run trend analysis for the past 3 quarters versus the last 8 quarters. What I wanted to know is, how's the last 3 quarters? Is it accelerating or decelerating versus the last 2 years? And what it does is it's able to pull the data, as you can see for Apple, from the quarterly revenue data, the quarterly EPS data. It's able to pull the data and then convert it to trailing 12-month automatically. Trailing 12-month basically smoothed out any seasonality because Apple earns most of its earnings and profits in the last quarter, around Christmas time. So using trailing 12-month number, it smooths out all the numbers. You don't get that lumpy data sets. And then it does the recent 3-quarter growth rate, the 8-quarter growth rate, and basically tells me that the last 3 quarters, grew at a faster rate or a slower rate than the last 8 quarters. And this is the type of trend analysis that I want to understand before I make an investment in a company, right? And you used to have to pull this data into Excel, convert the EPS data to trailing 12 months, or the quarterly data to trailing 12 months. Then you have to run your own trend analysis. ChatGPT is able to do all of that for you. There are some issues that I came up with. Sometimes it wasn't pulling the last 3 quarters. So I've even said that I've noticed there were issues in the past where it's not really retrieving the last 2 to 3 quarters. There are some data quality problems that I'm seeing here. Also, how it's calculating the growth rates, I would be more specific as far as how I wanted to calculate those growth rates. You have to be very specific. But this is a huge, huge leap forward from the previous version where it couldn't access any of this data at all. Certainly couldn't do conversions from quarterly to trailing 12 months and couldn't do any type of trend analysis. And now we've gone from being able to do all of that, and even for it to spit out charts like I've shown you here, it actually drew the chart for me in terms of what the revenue versus EPS trends look like. So I can see, okay, over the last 3 months, this has been trending higher versus the last 8 quarters has been trending lower, right? So everything is trending in the right direction over the last few quarters versus the last 2 years. That's kind of what I want to see if I'm, making a bullish investment, or vice versa. I want to know what the current trends are for the financial statements. And to do that analysis, it takes quite a bit of time. And this is why research analysts, on Wall Street work 80-hour weeks and get paid $250,000 a year to do this research, because it's brutal work. It's tedious, and it takes a lot of time. It takes expertise to understand how to use the data, pull the data, analyze the data, and then draw conclusions off of that. Here, I basically have ChatGPT doing it for me for free. It takes a little bit of time of building these prompts and doing it the right way, but you can get 95% of the way there without having to wait for an analyst to get back to you. If you were at a bank, you'd ask the analyst, they'd probably take a few days to get back to you with some of this data. Here, you prompt ChatGPT, and in a few seconds, you get the data you're looking for. Like I said, this is not quite where I need it to be just yet. There's some data quality issues that I have found. So you do want to be very cautious and validate the data that you're looking at before you make any investment decisions. When they do improve this, and like I said, I've only played with this for a few days. I've been trying to build a prompt for this, a single prompt that I can share with you that you can just copy and paste and have it run. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but if I do, I promise I will share that with you here as well. Like I said, this is likely going to be the first of many in this particular series of showing you how the new version of ChatGPT have significantly improved your ability to interact with it across multiple mediums and help you become a better trader. And I'm really looking forward to when it's able to do some analysis for me on the fundamental side, and even pull, I'll even show you a conversation that I have with ChatGPT on Magnificent Seven. I basically asked it to pull me all the financial data for the Magnificent Seven stocks, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla. I asked it to tell me what the forward PE ratio is, what the expected growth rate is. And then I basically asked it to see, are there any stocks where the forward PE is greater than 25 times, and where the trends of those stocks are, and it's able to help me identify out of all of the companies where the EPS growth rate is less than 5%, but it was trading at a very high multiple. What I was trying to identify are overvalued stocks that weren't growing very fast. And Marvell, was the one that identified for me, identified multiple companies that kind of met my specific criteria. And then I was able to narrow it down to Marvell Technologies as the one, had enough, was large enough from a market cap perspective, met all the criteria that I was looking for in terms of it was very expensive from a valuation perspective, but analysts were expecting it to grow not very much over the next few years. And it basically was able to do all of that work for me, build kind of the trend, the revenue numbers, the EPS numbers, and draw me a chart of kind of what the trends are. So this was all just from a conversation that I was having with ChatGPT. And like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many things that you could potentially do with this. And I've been playing around with it for just about a week or so. And I'm really excited about what this can potentially bring for traders, and really democratizing access to what has historically been data that really you had to either pay a lot of money for, or you have to have worked at an investment bank to access some of these research analysts to get access to this type of information. Now you can just talk to ChatGPT and get a lot of the similar information. So really, really looking forward to kind of what changes ChatGPT will provide on that front. So just to review what we learned here today, number one, what the latest version of ChatGPT-4o provides you with. The multimodal input is huge in terms of its ability now to truly interact with you in multiple mediums. And that's going to be incredibly powerful for helping you be a second pair of eyes across your analysis, across your trades, across your portfolio, and helping you stick to your rules. How to remain disciplined with the help of AI, showing you some prompts to construct your trading plan so that you can use ChatGPT as your second set of eyes to be an objective viewer on each trade and each position to help you stick to your rules. And hopefully, showing you some ways that you can explore using API to improve your research process, no matter whether you're a fundamental-oriented investor or technical-oriented investor. How you can use ChatGPT to potentially help you find information and analyze that information so that you can get the investment analysis that you are looking for. So a lot that we covered here today. Like I said, if you have access to, someone told me that this QR code is broken. So let me see if I can update this QR code for you real quick. I apologize. But I will have, Philip, if you don't mind sending the link to everyone here on your screen, you can go to optionsplay.com/signup if you want to sign up for your free 30-day trial. That's going to give you access to the recording and the slides, which will include the prompts that I showed you during today's session. So if you want to take what you've learned and immediately apply it, please make sure you either have a membership here at OptionsPlay, and thank you so much for those of you that are members and supporting us to allow us to continue doing this. If you're currently on a free trial, you'll get access to it. If you don't have a free trial, sign up for your free 30-day trial at optionsplay.com/signup. We will update this QR code so that you can sign up on your screens to this service. And with that, let's open this up for Q&A. Here is the new QR code you can use for now. This one here on your screen, if you are on your phone and you want to sign up for that free trial, that will give you access to all of the prompts. All right, let's try to answer some questions. I don't have a lot of time. I'll try to answer as many questions as I have time for. Is there a handout? Yes, the slides will be included, and the slides will have the specific prompts that I showed you during today's session. Someone's saying this should be able to backtest for you and scan for you. ChatGPT is not there yet. It's not able to do that. It's able to do some very basic screening for you, but it's just not there yet. It's not able to truly pull vast amounts of financial data and do the backtesting. But when it gets there, I'll certainly let you know. Can a set of charts be uploaded into ChatGPT? Yeah, absolutely. You can upload multiple charts. And with the latest version of ChatGPT, you can actually just point your cell phone to a chart on the screen. You don't actually have to take a screenshot and upload it. If you have a ChatGPT app, it's not out just yet, but the latest update that they're about to push out here with ChatGPT-4o, you can literally point your phone's camera at a screen or a visual, and it will basically take that and interpret it for you. I'm only again showing you the scratching the surface here, but I do find that when you're taking screenshots, you are giving it's the full detail of the chart, and I think that's really important for accuracy. So I do encourage for those of you that are using it for technical analysis to take the screenshot. And when you use ChatGPT, every single time you place a message, there's an attachment button next to it. You can click on that and upload the latest screenshot of the latest chart, and you can upload multiple charts as well. Is this going to make stock screeners obsolete? No, because stock screeners are purpose-built specific for screening, right? And stock screeners have a lot more data, like financial ratios, things like that ChatGPT just doesn't necessarily have access to, at least not in its current state. Can ChatGPT be used based on criteria rules that you specify to run a scan and come back to the top 10 stocks? So not quite yet there. How about security? Are we exposing our thinking to a third-party software platform? Theoretically, yes. I will say on the paid version of ChatGPT, the risk of that is lower. But ultimately, yes, there's some small risk of that. I would say, articulating what your strategy is, unless you have some super secret strategy that you think is just the best strategy in the world and you don't want anyone else to find out, sure, I don't think you should enter it into ChatGPT. But if you're not working with something that's super proprietary that a hedge fund would kill you for that type of strategy, I think you're okay in my opinion. To learn from our trading mistakes, can the reverse be done? To take a trade and put the chart and result into the ChatGPT for its in-depth analysis? I haven't tried that, but that's a really good potential use for it, right? I think you'd have to be very clear as far as when you enter the trade. You might have to draw on the chart like, this is when I entered the trade. Did I follow my rules at that time? If you take a snapshot of the trade and other, from the other perspective, like you have an idea as far as what the risk was on the trade, you absolutely can have it run historical analysis. You just have to have access to the data in order to do it. So you have to know what what the relative strength was on the day that you entered it, what the maximum risk was on the day that you entered it. But if you had all of that data, you absolutely can. So you could also just start getting into the habit of every single time you place a trade, take a screenshot of the trade, right? It takes 2 seconds to take a screenshot. And, at least in Mac, screenshots are automatically date and timestamp for you. So you can easily go back and say, okay, I made this trade on this day. Let me go back, find that trade, upload into ChatGPT and say, did I follow my rules, right? Or if I didn't follow my rules, which ones did I break? And maybe you can start finding a pattern of saying, hey, I keep breaking this specific rule. And every time I break it, I seem to it doesn't quite work out for me. Let me make sure that going forward, I write into ChatGPT that this is a rule that I cannot break. If it doesn't meet this specific rule, tell me to not place that trade. The world is your oyster. Think of this as your personal assistant for trading, and you can tell it to do whatever it is that you want it to do. ChatGPT is a separate service that is not included in OptionsPlay. You have to go to chatgpt.com. The ChatGPT-4o is available for free, but the free version only gives you limited number of messages. I don't know if it's per hour or per certain number of hours. You're limited in terms of the number of messages. So when things are really busy, you get more limited. When things are less busy, you're less limited. But if you pay the $20 a month, you get unlimited use of this. And I think for $20 a month, it is a service worth using. Would this help in day trading? From my perspective, it doesn't matter what type of trading. Any type of trading has a set of rules. If you can identify those rules and you can upload the trades that you're trying to make before you place the trade, it'll help you follow your rules. Can it calculate the efficient frontier for a portfolio? I don't know. Good question. The best way to figure out is ask, right? You can upload a portfolio, you can upload a CSV with your portfolio data in it and say, can you help me calculate the efficient frontier of this portfolio? See what it's able to do. I think you might be surprised. Can it write code for ThinkScript? Yep, it absolutely can. I've written a lot of code in ThinkScript. It can run in PineScript, it can run in ThinkScript, so it's able to actually write code for you. So especially if you want to build custom indicators, you can use it to build custom indicators. So here, I asked it to build me a script for my average RSI oscillator, and it spat out this code that I can copy and paste into Thinkorswim, and now I have this custom indicator built in Thinkorswim. You used to have to pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for people who built these custom indicators on Thinkorswim. This completely destroyed those businesses that are built on kind of building custom indicators, because now you can basically, if you can write out the rules in plain English, ChatGPT will code it for you, whether it's doing it in TradingView, in Thinkorswim, in TradeStation, in Python, whatever language you choose to work with, it's able to write that code for you. Does OptionsPlay share trades of broker dealers or hedge funds? No, we do not. All of your data is held privately in terms of your positions, your trades you're making. We never share that with anyone. I want to include some fundamentals like EPS earnings versus its PE ratio. How do I do this to set a parameter wise? So you can add that into your set of rules, right? You can say in your rules, let's go back to the rules that I had for trade analysis, right? You can add a set of rules to this set of rules and say, if I'm making a bullish trade, the forward PE has to be under 20. If it's a bearish trade, the forward PE should be greater than 20, and pull the data for me, whenever I place a trade. Or you can just take the PE data on OptionsPlay, right? So Adobe is trading at a 45 times PE. You can use that data and say, okay, you can have PE-based rules, you can have fundamental-based rules. You might have it pull some of that data in terms of PE data, but if you can think about it, if you can think of it, you can add it to ChatGPT. Have you tested out how to use it, help with cover calls and cash secured puts? I haven't, but from my perspective, if you look at the rules here, you just have to add some of the rules that you have for managing positions, right? So you can add a third rule to say if a cover call has gained more than 80% of its total value, then or its total premium, tell me to roll that cover call. If it's approaching 5 days to expiration, roll that cover call. Whatever rules that you want to place in, you just have to articulate it in plain English. Once you're able to do that, you can upload your portfolio, and it's going to help you analyze the portfolio. Now, like I said, you have to be very clear in its language, right? The clearer you are in terms of its language, the less likely there's going to be any errors that ChatGPT makes in analyzing your portfolio, which is why I'm giving you the specific prompts that I have written. I've tested these, I've utilized these on my own, so you can use the same language. Maybe you want to change the thresholds, maybe instead of 50%, use 75%, whatever numbers you want to change, you can change those numbers. But the language that I have is built specifically so that it knows how to take the OptionsPlay information, interpret it, and give you the end result. Microsoft Copilot may also work as powered by ChatGPT. Copilot does not do what ChatGPT-4o does. It's not able to pull in, an image and analyze it for you. So for those reasons, I think that Copilot does not provide an alternative to that. With that, that's all I have time for here today. Thank you so much for your time. This is incredibly fun session for me. It was incredibly fun to put this together. I hope that you got a lot out of this, and I hope that you guys are able to take advantage of this and start utilizing this and use this as a way to help you become a better trader. This is the one of hopefully many series that we'll be doing more of this type of content. Please let us know whether you like it or not. Give us your feedback. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe and like it so that you can help support us. With that, thank you so much and have a great trading day.